This is Curtis coming back at you from Ace Per Head Studios with another Sports Talk video. Today we're going to go over how far will the big three running backs fall in the 2021 draft. Now this talk has a very, very, very entrenched place in my heart. Running backs were the start of football for me. Back in the 70s, Larry Zonka, I did my first book report on him. Mercury Morris. Dolphins were a heavy run team. When I played ball, that's what I wanted to be as a running back. All the way through, that's all I wanted to do. Love running backs. Just, to me, football is the running back position. Unfortunately, Tom Brady and Peyton Manning ran to the league with their videotape and complained, and now we're in a pass-happy league. And over the last 15 years or so, or however long it's been, the running back position has been downgraded and downgraded and downgraded. And the talent, as the salaries have dropped, the running back talent has gone to cornerback, to all the positions, anything but running back, because it's abusive and then now the pay is low, you know what I mean? So if you're really playing running back, it's because you really love it or you're just pigeonholed in there. But we have three, I will say, 3.5 high-quality running backs. I don't believe any are elite. That could all change come the NFL, but as a prospect and when you gauge them against the truly elite running backs of the past, these look like high-quality running backs. That includes, for me, in my view, Harris. They're getting no love. People are talking, well, the Dolphins, at 18 look like the first spot to pick. Maybe they'll grab Harris, and if not, then maybe it's 24, the Steelers, and then maybe the Jets, and then it's top three running backs could actually, some case scenarios, have them falling out of the first round entirely. Pretty amazing how the NFL evolution has gone. For us old people, it's kind of like a heartbreaker because running backs were your idols, Three obvious backs: Harris, Williams, and Etienne. Those are the three ones. And I'd say that half is Carter. I really like him. Teammate of Williams. You look at Harris, and he's got that Derrick Henry comp. Derrick Henry's now been the most prolific back, broke 2,000 yards. He's the guy. You want a running back, everyone wants Harris. I beg to differ because, if you really don't understand the running back position, scheme matters a lot. And what even matters more is the offensive line. It's like a marriage. You could have a very awesome girl, you could have a very awesome guy, but they just don't work out. Sometimes it's like cats and dogs sometimes. Thankfully, 15 years, right, babe? So Harris does not fit for the Dolphins, in my opinion. That could be a conversation maybe later after this, but he fits for a lot of teams, just not for the Dolphins. And he's, amazing back. For a guy that big to have that much agility, foot speed, be I wouldn't say elite, near elite pass blocker and receiver. In a way I can see him work with the Dolphins with the RPO and stuff. I just don't see him getting many run yards because the offensive line stinks. But Harris definitely brings, I'd even say in some regards, more to the table than Henry because he's such a high-level third down back. It's not to say Henry isn't, but Harris is amazing. 6'2", 230, very comparable size, weight, and everything. But I believe he might be a little bit better in the passing game, maybe a little more foot speed. Still, though, after contact, 3.26 yards per carry. The kid's got it all. The kid has it all. The one thing that we have to focus on, though, as a 6'2" back, I mean, unless you're, Eric Dickerson, one of the few backs that was over 6 feet tall, 6'2", that could drop his pad level so low. And it protected him for a long. He had one of the most amazing pad levels for a tall back. And I don't think Henry Harris, isn't it interesting, has that kind of pad level. So he's going to be getting a lot of chops at the legs and knees, especially if the O-line can't run block. All right, he needs space. That's the one thing. I mean, that's the one thing you got to understand. Alabama gave him space. When this kid has space, you're in trouble. But you obviously don't get the same space in college into the NFL. And you certainly won't get the same space as Alabama gave him on the pro level. Now, I'm not knocking him or anything like that. It's just a reality. Okay? So you look at Derrick Henry. We all are going, Derrick Henry, get the next Derrick Henry. His first 2 seasons, they weren't that good. He was struggling because the offensive line wasn't good. And as the Tennessee Titans invested heavily into that offensive line, you saw by year 3, you started seeing the Derrick Henry we know. He broke 1,000 yards, was looking, and then it was that next 2 years after that. But without a line, even Derrick Henry wasn't doing anything. These tall backs are more dependent on their offensive line than the small scat backs. As an example, Myles Gaskin, small little dude, 5'9", barely 200. If he puts on 10 sets of underwear, Dolphins have one of the worst run blocking groups. But if you watch him, he was the 24th best back in the league because these little guys can find that space because they can go from one gap to another. They can squirt, they can twist. The bigger guys, like all the tall run backs from Miami, will just run out of town. So it's very dependent on where he goes. I mean, ultimately, if you build a line around him, he's going to be great. Okay, so that's Harris. Excellent player, nothing to knock, but I do believe you need certain teams to get the most out of him, especially early, because you never know in this league. You take too many hits early, the wrong hit, and now your career changes. So I hope for him, he gets to the right team. I want to see him on with a very good offensive line or a good offensive line or an ascending offensive line to get that space. So few running backs today. I want all 3 of these kids to make it. I'd love to see the NFL flip somehow. I like to see the cycle change back. But then you got Travis Etienne. Henry is considered ranked 34th on the power rankings. Etienne 37th. And this kid, he ran 4.45 40. But when you see him run on the field, he looks faster than that. I mean, much faster. And that's the thing, too. People have to understand. I saw it all the time, growing up as a kid. You see it as watching the sports. People are fast, but when you put the pads on them, how do they run? That's all that matters. These 40s, they're all well and good. You practice it. How well do you run with pads? And Etienne is fast at 4.45. That's fast for a guy that's 215, but he is fast on that. When you watch him, he has first, second, third, and fourth gear. He's got all the gears. His first gear isn't super hot. I can talk about it a little later. I like Williams' first gear better, but it's good. And his second gear is great. His third gear is great. And his fourth gear is great. I see him just hit that second gear, throttle it down, and throttle it back up to third gear and just run past guys. Unbelievable speed. You give him space, you give him opportunity, and that's a to-the-house kind of guy. He's a slasher. But he, again, is going to need a specific offensive line. He's going to need that space. He's going to need just at least certain kind of chips on the edge to get him to the outside. And you can't always get that. You know what I mean? So if this kid goes, and there's all the problems with his game too. Explosiveness is elite. On the right team, This kid could be a difference maker. But there's problems. He's got poor pass blocking. Everywhere you go and you watch, he struggles with blitz pickup. And, you know, I'll get into that. But blitz pickup, being able to block, can practically eliminate the career of a good running back. It's essential. It's not, you know, oh, well, he can run real fast. I'll pass block it. No. On the NFL, you got coaches that are putting you in to keep their $40 million quarterback upright, and you miss a blitz because you're looking over here and that guy misses the season or a career. No. They'll take a less talented runner and put him on third downs or even second downs, because now second downs are heavy pass downs too. Everything is a heavy pass down. So he's not, unless something dramatically changes, it's going to be a struggle for him to be on the field for 3 downs. And, you know, there's all issues too. He had fumble problems, 2 years of fumble problems. Ball security, as beautiful as his runs are, they're beautiful. I had that one time. Peterson had this run to the outside. It was like on the 5-yard line. And I hadn't felt this in a long time, but his acceleration was so dramatic, my heart jumped. It was so exciting, you know? It was exciting to see him just accelerate past this guy. It was unbelievable. And you kind of get some of that from Etienne, and you could see that. That's the star power. But the reality is the foundation of a running back is ball security. It's pass blocking. And he has weaknesses in those, okay? There are, you know, you read some of these things and they say there's concerns about him being able to deal with the NFL contact, but you look at him in college and he had like a 3.89 yards after contact, and that's good. It's actually better than Harris. So I'm not really that concerned on that, but, you know, obviously you have scouts that are far wiser than me. And so that's one of their concerns. I personally dismiss that concern. And, you know, he had an excellent 8 foot and 8-inch broad jump. And that really goes to his explosion. On the downside, he only had a 33.5 vertical, which is a little weird. You know, usually when you get a guy with that kind of broad jump, they usually have a pretty good vertical. And I think that maybe that lack of vertical is why there's that first gear isn't as amazing as the rest of them. But 5'10", 215, big. He's built a little higher up top than down below, and that runs into balance issues. That's another reason why I personally like Williams, who we'll get to next. But still, amazing back. If he gets his pass protections right, you know, good receiver. He's a solid receiver. And, you know, Williams is actually the worst receiver. But if he can get that pass blocking, blitz pickup, and ball control, and get to a good team, he might end up being one of the most devastating backs of his draft. He could actually be that guy that really turns an offense into something different. But that's not a guarantee. And that leads me to believe that he might actually fall a little farther than what we think. All right, so Javonte Williams, okay? He is the youngest of the three. He's a junior. He's going to be 21. And he was ranked 40 in the power ranks. And he's down a little bit. People aren't as high, but as the draft comes around, you're seeing people start to pick up on a little more because he really didn't have as much carries and as much exposure, which, you know, to me, I think it might be a good thing because when you watch him, you see the kid has something. But part of the reason was the 75th running back in the power rankings, Michael Carter, was his teammate. And it was like a thunder and lightning kind of thing. And Michael Carter, who I'll get into him just briefly, could be a real steal in that late second, third round. So Williams is a little bit of a dark horse. His talents are a little obscured by Carter and by lack of playing time. But as I watched him and as I looked into him, my personal opinion, he's the second best back in the draft. And for some teams, he might actually be the best back. All right, so excellent pass protection. He had one fumble in 2020. Obviously, he had limited carries, so like 170 carries. So, there is context to that. But good pass protection, shouldn't have any problem. He's a little smaller than the Etienne, which you don't think because of the way he runs. But he's about an inch shorter and about 3 pounds lighter. But as a former running back, as a guy who really is an aficionado on running backs and really prides himself in wanting to understand this position, his build is better than Etienne. Now, he doesn't have the speed. He ran a 4.5 in the 40. Again, I think his first gear is so explosive, though, more explosive than any of Harris and Etienne. But he is not a home run threat. He's a grinder, a physical grinder. And but when you look at his build, he's got pretty thick legs, well-developed body, and to be an inch shorter and to be equal weight, I just like the way he's got low pad level. I think that's the thing too. We forget, we say, oh, he's 6'2", he's better as a running back. This is not always the case. You could have a 6'2" back that's better than a 5'9" back because if not 5'9" back doesn't know how to lower his pad level. Pad level is everything. Lower distribution of the weight and the muscle to give you better balance. That is huge. And this is where Williams is at. Williams is a powerful back who's built low. He knows how to use his pads, good low pad level. He had a 36-inch vertical. And when you see him, he has good short area agility, explosion. He looks of the three, not Carter. Carter is the most superior as short area evasion. But when you see him run, he's vicious and he's explosive and he's able to maybe not go a full gap on his cuts, but at least a half gap. And that's a little bit more than Etienne and Harris. So I think that on a poorer offensive line, Williams would thrive more than Etienne and Harris. And that's why I think the Dolphins should draft him. I'm hoping at 36, Williams will be there because he had 4.59 yards per carry after contact. That's over a full yard more than Harris, and it's almost 3/4 of a yard more than Etienne. He had 75 broken tackles, led all college. And, the downside of him, like I said, his hands, he had that one big drop. I can't remember the game. It was a huge drop to keep the game going. It was a big game. He dropped it. He had 3 drops on 27 reception opportunities. So his hands aren't great. But you can have a third down back who can block and can't catch. But you can't have a third down. You can, but you got to get into trouble, have a third down back who can't block but can catch. And so I see him as a 3-down back. I see him as a grinder. I see him as a guy who can pick those chunk yards up because he did. He had a lot. I forgot how many big plays. I think he had the most big plays, but they were all in that 20 and 30-yard range. So he's not a home run threat like Etienne or even maybe Harris. Harris is not the same home run threat as Etienne. But I really, really, really like Williams. And I for the Dolphins or teams that aren't great right now, I think early on with certain teams, he could actually end up. And my personal fave is Williams. And then there's Carter. And I kind of put him to the back. I kind of relegated him to he was with Williams. And all I focused on was Williams. But the last couple of days, I really started to watch him. And, he's 5'9", and he was 199 in college. Now he's 201. And Barry Sanders was my guy. He's not Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders had jump cuts, all kind of stuff that was broken over. Greatest season by any player in college history. I'm not saying that. But that there's always a place in my heart for that little guy. And Carter has special ability in close range, evasion, cuts, jump cuts, explosion, very good receiver, pass blocker. It's just small, you know? But like I said, the Dolphins were able to do a lot with Gaskin with no line. So I think somebody is going to grab Carter, and he has a chance to be very special in the right situation. I think you can feel it when you see him run. You know when you see a running back run, whether he's special, you can feel that special jump off the screen. And that kid has special, small, but special. So the last part, when we look at all three of these backs, again, we always have to remember it's the offensive line and the running back. Now, 3 top 100 players were offensive linemen from Alabama that are coming to this draft, and they were blocking for Harris. That's a big, big attachment to Harris's production. Same thing with Etienne. He had 1. So when you look at those 2 players, you have to remember one was working with less. You know, they play different teams and all this stuff, but still 3 top 100 players to 1. And then when you go to Carter and Williams, it was 0. So they were working with the least. And that really has to add context when it comes to the evaluation. Because in the NFL, it's about you're going to have less than college. You're going to have a harder time than college, especially the running backs. Holes that were 2-3 yards wide long slip to a foot, 2 feet on a consistent basis. And so sometimes very good backs, that culture shock can really affect them. And so sometimes, as long as the running back's not getting beaten up, having lesser lines. And if you go back and you look at Williams' tape, he had a lot of stops that was just not his fault because he was getting blown up in the backfield. And so, but that lesson is crucial on the NFL level. And so I think you have to look at them with that kind of context. And I don't know, I think that adds something. Doesn't mean the end all be all, but we have to keep that in mind. Finns, Jets, Steelers, and Bills. They're like the 4 top names for running back. I want to see these backs go in the first round. You know, I do. I hate seeing my running backs getting mistreated like the redhead stepchild. But the problem is there's some quality offensive linemen. And you look at the Jets, they need offensive linemen. You look at the Bills, they could use some offensive linemen. Interior, so that might hold them off. Steelers could use some linemen. Finns could use some linemen. And so I think as much as I hate to see the running backs being devalued, and I don't believe, like PFF says, running doesn't really matter. I'm kind of not giving them a fair roll of the dice on what they're saying, but you know what I mean. A lineman has more value. I mean, now if these were guys, if this was Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, and Barry Sanders, we'd be talking a whole different tune. But they're not. They're good quality backs. So there's a very good chance that 1, 2, or 3 could slip into the second round. I don't think 3. I think possibly 2. So how far will they fall? I don't know. I personally think Etienne might be the 3rd back taken because of that the pass protection issue. It's critical. Problem 2 here is with when you have 3 good backs and it kind of sort of interchangeable, teams are looking like, well, we can wait. Dolphins are probably saying, you know what? If there was 1 good back, well, we got to take him at 18 because he's not going to make 36. But, well, there's 3 of them. Well, we could get 1 of them. We'll take offensive lineman at 18 or edge player. Then, the Steelers come. And the Steelers are like, well, Dolphins didn't take 1. We're going to be stuck kind of late in the end of the round. So, well, maybe we'll take 1. Then the Jets come around. And they have an early pick before the Dolphins. So they might say, well, let me try to get it in early in the second round. And then the Bills. Bills might be saying, well, we can get Carter. We need an offensive lineman. We build our offensive line. We could find another quality back in the 3rd. Is that really what's more important? To keep Allen protected or to get a running back? So I really think that early second round period, you could see two running backs go. My hope is Williams goes number 36. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. I look forward to seeing your comments. Thank you for staying as long as you have. If you enjoyed what you've seen, please like, comment, and subscribe in the link below. Just check it down there. Just tell me what you think and get ready for that big draft that's coming. It's going to be very, very interesting. I'm going to try to cover it here. And let's hope some running backs go early. Let's not hate the running backs. Let's love the running backs. Take care. Be well.